Hello and welcome back to the Certified Jordan channel. Today on this channel we are going to talk a bit more about the rebirth of the KTM Duke 390. We have a box of spares here, so we're going to look what we received for the engine rebuild. We'll go through that quickly, and then we're going to do a rebuild on the engine. So we have the engine here. I can quickly show you this. Here's the engine. It's nice and clean, ready for disassembly. However, what bothers me a bit is the different color of the cylinder here. So it might be that this has a stroker kit on it. We wouldn't know until we opened her up, but as you can see, this is not original, so it has been opened before to install that. Obviously it's a different color, so we'll have a look at what's going on there once we opened her up, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so let's have a look at what we've got. I've got some Indian head shellac. I've got some proper grey RTV silicone gasket maker. You'll see in the video I am not big on silicone. Where we will be using this is mostly to hold gaskets in place. It's less than a drop, just to hold the gasket in place for assembly, and also then on the tappet cover gasket where those little half moon shaped rubber things meet between the tappet cover and the head. We just put a drop there, but you'll see in the videos I'll use maybe 4 drops of this in total for the entire engine. We've got some copper compound, and then for the parts, now before we open this, all the parts did not arrive today. We are still awaiting the fork seals, the fork oil, and we are also still awaiting the piston rings. That will come tomorrow. I'm just a bit worried, as I mentioned, about the size of the piston inside of that barrel, but we'll only see that, you know, what is the size of that piston once we've opened that cylinder. So we've ordered a set of standard rings, so you don't really get that in oversized because it's a nickel cylinder. But yeah, we'll take it from there when we open her up. Hopefully it's still standard. But if we get to the parts here, let's have a look at what we got. This is a base gasket that goes between the cylinder and the engine itself, the bottom gasket, this one. Here we have a complete clutch kit. It came with the springs that we need. It came with the friction discs. There's a part number supplied from KTM. So these will be a bit of okay. And then it also came with these plates, the pressure plates. These are sandwiched together like that inside of the clutch pack. You'll see that as we go along. So all of that is just in here. Multiple wet clutch system as used on most motorcycles. Here's a new head gasket. And here's the 2 valve stem seals. We're going to replace them as well. Okay. These are the 2 small radiator covers that goes on the side of the radiator. This is nothing to do with the engine, this is for cosmetics. Here's a new clutch lever. That clutch lever is broken. And then here is the clutch side cover, engine side cover gasket. So that's all we received today. So hopefully tomorrow we'll get all the rest of the parts that we need. But because we have this, we can go ahead with the disassembly of the engine. So I'm going to take the engine outside. I'm going to drain the oil. The water or the coolant has already been drained. I'm going to drain the oil and then we'll start with the disassembly process. So let's get started with this KTM 390 engine. What I've done is I've already drained the oil, and my oil pan was actually put here so that the engine can then just drain the oil into the oil pan. And I don't know what I did, but I bumped the oil pan, fell over with all the engine oil in it, together with 2 bikes fork oil inside that oil pan. And all that oil was spread across my entire workshop floor. What a mess. I cleaned it up properly. The oil plug is back in. I've checked this little oil filter strainer sieve type of thing it's got inside here. There was a bit of debris in it, but it's not metal. I think it's some of the clutch plates that was worn badly, because on this specific engine, in the last 1,000 miles or 1,500 kilometers, 1,600 kilometers, the clutch started slipping worse and worse and worse as it got along. So I think that was just some of the clutch plates that was worn down, that was stuck inside that strainer. So I think the first thing I'm going to do with this engine is I'm going to remove. Yeah, okay, let's remove the tappet cover first. Let's get this out of the way. But it's already loose because I had some of this paint, this color of this. I had some of this color mixed so that we can paint the cylinder in the same color. So this is not tight. I'm just going to remove this, and then usually the first thing that I take off of the engine will be the timing chain tensioner. Which sits on this side of the engine. The gear lever is still attached on this one. Because I want to remove the tension off of this chain. You know what, I think before we go ahead, let me get some gloves. Usually I don't wear gloves, but I don't want to be killed in the comments for not wearing gloves. These days it's all about health and safety, you know. So let us rather put gloves on. These timing chain tensioners, you want to move them or remove them bit by bit. There you go, it's loose. Bit by bit, because it's tensioned. And you'll see as I loosen these bolts, it will come up and loosen itself. Right. You see, it pushes out and then it pushes against this timing chain guard that then sets the tension onto that timing chain. So let us remove this gasket. Inside here, let me just see if you can see this on camera. Yeah. Inside here, in these corners, there and at the bottom, there and at the bottom, as well as the top two corners. This is where we will be using some of that RTV. We did not get a gasket for here, so we want to be real careful in removing this one. It is a rubber gasket, so it is removable. There you go. The timing chain is now nice and loose. So up next, we'll take this little guide off, and despite me wearing gloves, I'm still going to need some sort of cloth just to keep my gloves a bit cleaner. And you know, you'll see me later on in the video, we will be washing all the tools that we've used. Okay, now this is too tight for a T-wrench. This is a 9, we need an 8. It's loose. It's loose. Now guys, before you do any type of engine work, you have to be sure that you are familiar with the torque settings on all of these little bolts. This is a very soft aluminum, or aluminium, as the right word is aluminium. It's aluminium. It is very soft, and if you over tighten these bolts, you're not going to just have a problem, but you're going to have a very serious problem, because if you strip the inside of this, there's so little meat here that even if you want to put an insert in here, I'm not sure how you're going to be able to get that done, because there's not a lot of room for error here. Best thing is, follow the torque instructions to a T and make sure that you do the things, the correct settings on these, all of these bolts. Usually these are 10 Newton meters. I know this because this is not my first engine that I'm doing. I've done many engines, so make sure you use the right one. You'll also see here is a type of thing that moves on this camshaft. This is the exhaust cam, or the outlet cam. This is the inlet cam. And what I think we should do now, before we start to loosen these cups, is maybe we should see if we can turn this engine so that we can get top dead center, so that we can see the timing marks on these two cams, on these two timing gears on the cams, so that we are sure that we are removing everything, and we're going to move them back into to the right orientation. So maybe let's see, without having to struggle with these plugs. There's a plug here on the engine that you usually take off. Then you turn this bolt on the magneto. This is the magneto side. This is where the generator or the alternator is that generates the power to charge the batteries and things with. So this plastic cap you can take off and then put a socket in here to turn the engine. But usually, from experience, this doesn't come off easily. And because it's plastic, it's brittle. And because of it's brittle, it breaks. And I don't want to cost the owner of this motorcycle more damage. So I'm going to see if I can get this plug out. If I can get the plug out, then maybe we can put it in gear and use a front sprocket to try and move this to the top dead center position. So for this spark plug specifically, it uses a 14 millimeter, but it uses a special type of And if you can see that, you can see in there, it's a special kind of socket. It's not just a normal 14 millimeter. Let's see if we can remove this. And this is a problem. I've used this socket, this extension as a punch at some stage. I needed to get something moved and I didn't have something else, so I used that one. So this is going to cause me some headaches here. I'll have to use the larger, I believe this is a 1/2 inch ratchet. This little socket that I showed you now also has a built-in magnet. Not too bad. I'm actually quite happy with that. The spark plug looks very, very old, if you ask me. Is it an original KTM spark plug? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm not going to be using that socket again until reassembly, so let's put it away. You put the stuff away whilst you're busy, you can try and keep your bench clean. Yeah, this is not going to happen. We will not be able to move this. This thing is way too tight. So we're going to have to try and remove this brittle plug. It's not this one. Maybe it's this key. Yes, it is. Big socket again. Or big ratchet. Oh, that's nice. It came out very easily. Nice, because that means that this O-ring is actually still doing its job and sealing. So we can put that away again. And then let's see what's in here. That looks like a 14 or a 15 millimeter. Because I always have a roll of toilet paper in my garage. You can see just a bit of oil coming out of here. There's no more oil inside the engine. So before it makes a huge mess, just clean it up nicely. And then you know you're good. Let's see what we have. This is a 15 millimeter. Yeah. That is correct. So what you can do, let's do this. Take this small extension, shove it in, put it on top of the piston. Let's turn this. That's too much. Oh, it won't turn the other way. Ah, it skipped the teeth. Yeah, it did. That is not good. But I know where it skipped. So we'll figure that out. Let's go back to TDC. That's TDC right there. Right there's TDC. at TDC. So now we turn this engine around. All right, you have a marking here, and as you can see, this side skipped. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to drive that by hand, but all right. Okay, at least now we know. So there's a marking there. You can also just shove your finger into this hole where the timing tensioner was, the chain tensioner, and that should line you up. You see, these things are not extremely tight. As I told you, this is usually 10 Newton meters at most. Look at this. This is a bolt that I haven't touched, okay? It's loose. Let's get those Allen keys out of the way. It will be this one. It's got 2 Allen key bolts up top here. See if we can get this spark plug tube out. It's not so easy. That is not so easy. I really hope we're going to be able to get these bolts out. It's coming. Not easily though. Right, this one is loose. Let's just put it back to where it's supposed to be. Motor smells a bit of burnt oil. I don't like that, to be honest. I really don't like the smell of this motor. For this, let's just use this as an extension. Now everything I take apart here will be cleaned properly before we reinstall it. You don't want a lot of dust and debris and things inside of this engine. That's looking for trouble. So now let me get my rubber mallet. I'm going to gently shove my finger in here and just tap on this cam bracket. Everything is out. Now what, maybe I can shove this bolt into the hole that holds the tappet cover on, and then I can lightly pull on it. This is a precision fit, but it's not budging. So let me see if I can lightly, oh yeah, just gently, just lift it up without causing any damage whatsoever to the mounting surfaces here. That side is up. And she's out. Now we can inspect, sorry for the noise guys. Let me just wipe my hands, wipe my mallet, put the mallet back to where it belongs. Now we can inspect these cams. From what I can see, there's no excessive wear on the lobes. There's no excessive wear on the bearing portions here, and then the white metal here, the aluminium piece where the bearing runs on. Looks good to me. The rockers, everything is in place. We'll have to take the valves out because we need to replace the valve stems, as I mentioned. Then let's get this baby back into place where she's supposed to be. Just give some tension there. No, she needs to move up a couple of gears. How's that? I think she needs to move back one gear, one teeth, or one tooth. Let's give some. Yeah, that's correct. That's all in line. Right. Not that it helps us in any way, because this needs to come out. This needs to come out because we need to remove the head. I think on the head side of the world, I think the first thing I'm going to do is to remove the exhaust header. It needs to be cleaned. Let me show you this. It looks very rough. I mean, look at that header. This needs to be cleaned. This is supposed to be stainless. So let's get this header out of the way, yeah? I think that is a 12. No. I do have an impact gun, but my impact gun works. It's one that works with air. So yeah, it will be very much easier for me to use that thing than to struggle with tight bolts. But it means that then my compressor needs to run in the background, which is going to cause a hell of a noise. So I'm sure you're not going to enjoy that noise. So I decided to rather go the old school way of elbow grease to get all of these things done. For your listening pleasure, if I can put it that way. This thing is... With time, this bracket bends slowly. And that's what I'm faced with now. It's kind of stuck onto these studs. We can try and help it a bit, yeah. Let's take these two bolts I've just taken out and put them back into place. Look at this exhaust header. That's not pretty. That's not proper. The whole thing's supposed to look like this. So we'll clean this up. We'll remove the oxygen sensor and clean this all up. We just put this out of the way. And then we need to start looking at these fasteners here. I don't think I'm going to be able to get my big socket in here. Guys, I just need to move my motorcycle out of the way here, because I need to get to my long Allen keys. I have a very nice set of T-handle Allen keys, which unfortunately I had to take to work for a problem, and then I forgot them in my office. Look at this, guys. Look at this. All right, talking about torque specs on these bolts. Look at this. One finger. This does not require a lot of torque. Always keep in mind, if you work on aluminium engine components, they are worked out to such a precision. They are made with such precision. You don't need 100 newtons of torque. Remember this bolt. Let me show you this. Look at the length of this bolt, okay? It goes through the head, through the cylinder, into this small section here. So if you look at that, that is the amount of thread that actually threads into the bottom section of the engine base. You cannot put 100 Newton meters of torque onto that, what's that, 6 millimeters of flesh inside the block, if we can put it that way. You cannot. It won't last. Oh well, it will just blatantly strip out instantly. Okay, then we need some bigger Allen keys down here. This is too big. I hope I have the right one here. Yes, I do. That's the size. It is a 8 millimeter Allen key bolt that bolts this head down. Now I think this is going to be difficult to do on my own. No, it's loose. Sorry for turning my back on you. Maybe let me try and do it the other way around. You have two there and two on the outside. Now I just threw the half of my tools on the floor. Now, this one is going to be a bit problematic. I'm struggling to get my tool in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my T-bar, and then I'm going to use a spanner over the top of it to give me some leverage on it. Guys, I'm going to have to call my son to come and hold this engine for me whilst I'm performing that one, because I can't do both at the same time. Let me try once more. I'm going to mess up with the socket of that Allen key bolt, and I really don't want to do that. So let me get my son to help me to loosen that one, and then we'll take it from there. But you know what? I'm thinking now, before we do that one, maybe let's do the valve stem seals while we're at it. Look at this. Check here. Yeah, this one is a bit tight. That one, no effort at all. So there's a very long bolt here, and then I drop it, and that holds a shaft. Let me see if I can see what's going on inside here. How do you get that shaft out? Is it just a case of pulling it out? Let me get a smaller screwdriver. Yeah, it is. So before I pull it out, I want to show you what I usually do. Let me just show you this real quick. This is a box with the parts in, all right? I'm going to need these two valve stem seals, right? Remember to take your parts out first. Okay, let's put that on there as a bit of weight. All right, so what I'll do is I'll take the parts that I'm going to need out. Okay, then if I can just get my marker here, I'll have in, out, okay. That is for the valve stuff. Okay, so first of all, we took this out, so that will go on the outside, this will go on the inside. All right, that's exhaust and inlet. Okay, guys, I really hope this little fan of mine is not causing a noise on the mic, but it is so hot today. So I'm taking the shaft out, I'm putting it on the input side. This is a rocker arm for the right. That's a rocker arm for the left. And then we need to take these shimmings out. This is a magnet. I'm going to take the shim out for the right. I'm going to take the shim out for the left. Then the rocker arms for exhaust side. Now, plier. Oh, maybe I should take the shaft out first. That will help a lot. There's a shaft where it rides, the rockers rides on these shafts. Put that one there. That's a rocker arm right exhaust side. This is a rocker arm left exhaust side. Okay, let's take the shimmings out. This is the right shimming. This is the left shimming. Okay, now that is out. It's out of the way. And now we can take the head off. I can take the valve springs out. I have a compressor tool for that. We'll take these out. Get the valves out. We'll soon clean them nicely while we're at it. And then we'll install the new valve stem seals. Now, if I did not remove them out of the box, I couldn't open the box because all my stuff is labeled on top of the box. So that's why I take them out first. We'll put all the valve springs and valve seats and everything there. And then we'll disassemble the head, but that will be for a bit later. Otherwise, we should maybe get the head off, then get that job done, wash the head, put it in a plastic bag, set it aside. Then we know it's right and it's ready for reinstallation. That's maybe not a bad idea. And she's loose. All right, so this one is loose. Let's take these 4 head bolts out. And I think the reason I struggle to get it loose is, if you look at this, just look at that thread or that head. That doesn't look pretty at all. And once again, I get that whiff of burnt oil. That's why we're replacing the piston rings. Motor is still extremely strong. There's nothing wrong with its performance. This head will receive a proper nice deep clean before it comes back on. And that one's loose. This one's just coming out. Okay, let's get this. See if we can get that washer. Yep. Get this one together with its washer. There we go. Time to wipe off oil. Let's get the mallet. There's no other fasteners around this side. There's nothing that side. Those two we've removed on camera. So this one should be ready to roll. Just like that. It's loose. And here she comes. I mean, look at that, guys. That's not bad. I'm messing oil again all over the show. And I lost my one dowel. Something you never want to lose. There's a head gasket coming off. Not looking bad at all. It's a multi-plate disc, as you can see here. It's a 3-layer multi-plate disc. Not looking bad. This one's usually screwed in, but this one is removable. And let me quickly wipe this off so I can show you. It's not in a bad state. Not in a bad state at all. That's just normal wear and tear. I don't think this needs to be replaced. I'm happy with that. I'm happy to reuse that. So that will be reused. Okay, now we need to remove the cylinder. They have luckily put a piece for us here to hammer on. There you go, it's loose. There's a cylinder. Let me just put it down. I just want to get a cloth. I want to wipe it down because I want to have a look at what the cylinder inside looks like. And I want to measure to make sure that this is not the Athena stroker kit. If it is, we've ordered the wrong parts. The parts should be arriving. I can still see cross hatching. That small piece you see there, it feels absolutely smooth. I cannot feel this is just some of the toilet paper. I cannot feel any score markings in it. And for this, I'm also happy to reuse this. There's definitely still cross-hatching in it from learning process in the factory. Yeah, I'm happy to reuse the cylinder, and there goes the other little locating thingy. Alright, so we have this apart. As I mentioned to you, this section here, the silver section, needs to be painted. So I'm going to clean this all up nicely. This base gasket we have, it is there in the box of spares. So this needs to be removed. You know what, I'm going to remove this off camera with a blade, because I want to spend as little as possible time trying to clean this mating surfaces. But this section here will be nicely cleaned where the head gasket goes on, and then we can take it from there. Have a look inside. Yo, this engine inside looks very, very nice. I have no play in bearings. The oil squirter I can see there. I'll take it out and clean it nicely, just to make sure that it does squirt enough oil, but you can see it does. Just as a precautionary measure, as we are here in the engine already. There's some pieces of engine gasket, center case gasket sticking out here. I'll take my blade and clean that up nicely before we go back in with all the goodies. Let's have a look at these rings, guys. Unfortunately, I don't have the rings here yet to compare them to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this ring back onto the piston, and then when the rings arrive, we'll compare them with the new ones. But all of these rings are nice and loose. There's nothing keeping them from expanding and contracting and moving up and around, so that's a good sign. The piston, to me, looks good. It has no indication of anything that it is an oversized piston. I'll have a look inside to see if it is an original KTM piston. This will say made in India. As you know, this engine is a collaboration with Bajaj in India. And it says Bajaj Elco. So this is an original KTM piston. Alright, if it's original, it's definitely standard, because it's a nickel sleeve. You can't open that up and make it bigger. So if it's nickel sill, it's standard. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to clean up here a bit. Clean all these tools and hang them back up to where they're supposed to be. I'm going to get this engine off the bench, cover it up with a rag, put it to the side. I want to have the cylinder and the head on the bench so that we can start the process of replacing the valve stem seals and then cleaning that barrel. We call this a barrel, but it's actually a cylinder. But I'm going to clean this barrel. Oh, check there. It says Bajaj. B-A-J-A-J, Bajaj. And somewhere on here it should say made in India as well. No, it doesn't. But this is an original Bajaj cylinder. You can see there's quite a lot of meat here. In the old days with the 50s, we'll take this down to 1 millimeter so that you can put a 65cc kit in it. Anyway, we're going to clean this up so this can be painted and ready for reinstallation. Clean up all these mating surfaces for the gaskets, painted, gasket painted, and then that's ready to go back in. As soon as we get the other parts, then we can shove this back on. All right. So I'm gonna see you just now. I'm just gonna clean up here and then see you just now. All right, guys. So here we have the valve compressor tool that I use to compress the valves, to take the valve springs off. So you have this section, it goes over the head, and these sections I'll show you the way it works now. Okay, so first of all, you want to find the one of these little thingies that fits the best over the valve. That one's definitely too big. I think that's the one that we are going to be using. Alright. Then the bottom section, this needs to screw in here. I want to quickly show you this. This cylinder, all this mating surfaces has already been cleaned. Okay, I've prepped this paint area by just smoothing it out with a Scotch-Brite pad. I've degreased the cylinder 3 times. So now, just as a precautionary step for paint work, before I mask anything, I'm going to take my touch-up gun set. Sorry, it's not set yet. Set to 14 psi. What I have here is normal clean lacquer thinners, and I'm just going to get into all these nooks and crannies and just spray it down with lacquer thinners. There's nothing that can react or be hurt by this. This is just going to be 100% sure that this painted area is 100% prepped for paint. I'm just going to spray it down with lacquer thinners, let it dry, and while we're at it we can spray inside here and make sure everything is nice and clean.
The drying process here will not take long. It will take maybe 1 or 2 minutes just to evaporate all of that lacquer thinners. And by doing this, I'm just ensuring that the surface is completely and utterly clean and ready for paint. It will also promote the adhesion of the primer to this cylinder. So here I've added the first layer of self-etching primer. This is a second layer, nice and thick. Now I had some paint mixed with a specific KTM engine color. So I'm going to add 2 nice thick coats of that as well. And then I've just added a couple of drops of hardener into that paint, just to ensure that when we use solvents to clean the engine, it doesn't stain the paintwork. So you'll see in the pictures to follow the cylinder on its own and then the head on top of it, and how the color matching came out. And then we're going to start with the replacement of the clutch on this engine. Just look at that, it came out beautifully, and then with the head on top the color matching looks good.
We're going to rip apart this section of the engine. This is where the clutch is located. This is a KTM Duke 390 engine. We're going to take this side cover off so that we can repack the clutch within this engine. It's slipping quite badly. There was also some clutch material in the oil, so let's get right to work.
Okay guys, thanks so much for watching. I'm going to end the video here, and then we'll go ahead with the second episode for the top rebuild. Thank you.